The number one skill every entrepreneur needs to raise capital, and most people completely ignore it. Look, most entrepreneurs think that raising capital comes down to having the perfect pitch deck, a flawless and perfect financial model, and knowing the right people. Like, they have to know the right people or they can't get anything done, right? That's exactly why most people fail when raising capital, because raising money isn't about design or data, it's about delivery. There's one skill that separates founders who actually raise millions of dollars from the ones that are still sending out, just following up with emails, sending messages, sending DMs, and months later get nowhere, right? It's the most underrated, most ignored, and the most powerful skill in capital raising, and I'm going to show you what it is. I'm going to show you why it matters more than anything else and how you can master it starting today. Also, do me a favor, hit subscribe if you're serious about learning how to raise capital the right way. Every week, I drop real investor strategies that no one else is teaching, because people don't teach this stuff. It's like a secret, and I am unleashing those secrets on both sides of the table. My partners and I, we have raised over $1 billion of capital. I'm licensed, and this is literally what we do every day. My firm does this every day. We raise money, we raise capital. And what I've learned is this: the companies that get funded aren't always the best companies. They're the companies that have the clearest and most precise pitch and plan. They're the ones that are the clearest. I've seen mediocre ideas raise millions of dollars, and I've seen brilliant ones crash and burn and get nothing. And the difference was not the valuation, it wasn't the traction, it wasn't even the connections. It came down to one thing: communication. Not talking, not rambling, but communication, the ability to make investors believe what you believe in seconds. Let me give you a real story. We had a CEO walked into an investor meeting with what I thought was an incredible product. It actually was an incredible product. Cutting edge tech, strong market, proven demand. But 5 minutes into the pitch, I looked around the room and I could see it. Blank faces, completely blank faces. He was using crazy jargon, trying to sound too smart, long sentences, and over-explaining everything. By the end of that meeting, the investors weren't asking any questions. They were literally checking their phones, trying to get the heck out of that meeting. The deal was dead. Right then and there, dead. Not because of what he had to offer, not because of the product, because the messaging got completely lost in translation. Has this ever happened to you? Over talking and killing your deal before it ever actually starts. 2 weeks later, I sat in another meeting with another CEO. This founder had an average product, honestly, way weaker numbers, but he was electric, had simple words, short sentences, a clear story, and explained himself in a way that was so easy to relate to. He made investors feel something. They were nodding, they were taking notes, they were engaged in everything he was saying. Guess who walked out with a term sheet? Not the guy with the better company, the guy with the better communication. That's the skill. The number one skill every entrepreneur needs in order to raise capital and raise it the right way is communication, because investors don't fund the best ideas, they fund the clearest storytellers. Here's what I want you to do. Think about it from an investor's perspective. They're seeing 20, maybe 30 different pitches a week. Most sound exactly the same. They use these big buzzwords. They use all these amazing slides and acronyms, a blur of tech talk and projections that blend together and sound so smart all the time. You can have the best deal in the world, but if you confuse them, you lose them. A confused investor will never move and will never send money. They nod politely. They say, well, hey, we'll circle back with you, and they disappear. Because look, investors are nice people. They're not just going to cut you off generally. They're nice people, but you'll never hear from them again. But when you speak with clarity and we speak with confidence and conviction, you cut through the garbage, you cut through the noise, you stand out. You're somebody different than the rest. Investors remember you because you make them feel something. And here's the truth. Investors do not just invest in your spreadsheet. They invest in you. They invest in people. They're asking themselves one question: do I believe this person can pull it off and protect my money? And that answer comes entirely from you and how you communicate with them. So how do you master communication? Here's how you master it. I'm going to give you a simple 3-part framework. The first one's clarity. If you can't explain what you're doing in 1 to 2 sentences, you're not ready to raise capital. Test it. Can a 10-year-old understand what you're doing? If not, simplify it until they can. Clarity will build the trust you're looking for, but I promise you, confusion will kill it every single time. Confidence. Confidence is not about being loud. It's not about being cocky. It's about being certain. It's knowing your numbers absolutely cold, and it's knowing your story so deeply that you can explain it from every single angle. You can explain the market, the product, the returns without breaking eye contact. You are the expert, because when you sound uncertain, investors feel uncertain. And if they feel uncertain, you're taking the step down on the ladder of trust, and you're not going to get an investment. And number 3 is conviction. This is what most people miss completely. Conviction is belief energy. It's how you make people feel how certain you actually are. If you don't look like you'd invest in your own company, then why the hell should anybody else? And conviction is contagious, just so you know. It's what turns logic into emotion, and emotion is what opens up people's wallets and what opens up their checkbooks. Okay, so how do you actually build communication into your capital raising DNA? It's simple. Here's exactly what you need to do. First, record yourself explaining your business in 60 seconds. If you wouldn't invest after watching it, redo it until you would. I guarantee you most of you won't. And that's okay. It's okay if you won't invest. That's the feedback you need. So once you feel like you can invest in yourself, then go out and test it to somebody else. Pitch your idea to someone completely outside of your industry that does not know your industry. And if they can't repeat it back to you, you're not clear enough yet. So keep reworking it. Next, you're gonna role play it. Role play it and understand what questions that investors are probably going to have. Most founders, they think the answers, they have the answers, but they don't actually put it out in the open. They don't speak them. So when the pressure hits, they forget, they freeze, and they forget the actual answers that they intuitively know in their head. So practice those questions. Simplify your deck. Look, one slide, one message. The goal is not to impress, it's to connect. The max slides you should have is 6 or 7 starting out. You don't need many more than that, okay? 15 max. And lastly, what I want you to do is I want you to study and watch other great communicators. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, even great athletes and politicians. Study how they make a complex idea sound simple and sound easy and sound relatable to you. So let me give you a real story from my world. There was this one time I was pitching a deal to a group of really serious investors. They were private equity guys and girls. They were old school. The deal we had was really strong, but I knew if I went in there and started with numbers, I was going to lose them from the start. So what did I do? I opened up, I built rapport, I waited for them to give me permission to pitch, basically asking me what I have on the table. We all know why we're in the meeting. So I was waiting for them to ask me, which is a big secret when you're pitching. And what I did is I started telling a story. I talked about the problem, I talked about the pain point, and I talked about the opportunity in human terms, but I did it in a very short period of time, 1 to 2 minutes. This was not long and drawn out to where they were done listening to me already. It was short and concise. And what happened is they were engaged. They started asking a bunch of questions. They started asking the right questions. That meeting did not actually end in a check, but what it did do is led to 3 other follow-ups. And one of those turned into a multi-figure, multi-million-dollar raise. Look, the numbers don't create the momentum. Your communication does. Your communication will every single time. Create momentum or kill momentum. So here's the takeaway. If you want to raise capital, you need to master communication. Not your slides, not your spreadsheets, not the bullshit jargon. You need to have clear communication, you need to be confident, and you need to have conviction in your presentation and in your voice. Because when you can tell your story clearly, you can tell it powerfully, and you can tell it with passion, I promise you, you will separate yourself from 99% of the other founders out there trying to raise capital. Investors won't just understand you, they're going to actually believe in you. If this actually hits home, guys, do me a favor, subscribe below. I'll share some real frameworks every week that'll make you better at raising capital, better at building investor trust and network, and scaling your own vision.